In that same summer of 1934, Roosevelt had to deal with another major strike. That was the strike of Teamsters in Minneapolis. In Minneapolis, the Teamsters were supported by other working people. And soon nothing was moving in the city except milk, ice, and coal trucks given exemption by the strikers. Farmers drove their products into town and sold them directly to the people in the city. The police attacked, the two strikers were killed, and 50,000 people attended the mass funeral. There was an enormous protest meeting and a march on City Hall. And after a month, the employers gave in to the Teamsters' demands. But let's visit a documentary on the shutdown of Minneapolis.
Don't have jobs. They can't get unemployment benefits or other aid because this was before those government programs were created. Their attempts to organize have been met by police clubs. Hungry for work, they could be hired to replace workers who are on strike. The leaders of Local 574 know this and reach out to these workers, inviting them to form their own section of the union. Encouraged by the solidarity exhibited by the truckers, the unemployed workers sign up to serve as pickets instead of strikebreakers. The Teamsters in Minneapolis are inspired by the courage of workers in other cities who are also standing up for fairness and the right to join unions. In Toledo, Ohio, thousands of workers at an auto parts factory, half of them women, go out on strike with the full support of unemployed people in their community. In San Francisco, people fill the streets and shipping is stopped at every port on the West Coast when longshoremen go on strike to have a voice in the workplace. By mid-May, with their plans carefully mapped out, the now 6,000 members of Local 574 in Minneapolis vote to shut down the city. They demand better wages and union recognition. They also tell the employers that the union must include not only drivers, but all of the men and women working at the warehouses. The union uses a brilliant but risky tactic called the cruising picket line. Carloads of strikers cruise the downtown area looking for trucks that might be trying to move cargo in violation of the strike. When they spot one, the picketers stand in front of the truck with their signs. The tactic works well, and for several days, the truck traffic is nearly halted. This kind of operation requires a lot of support. Women work 12-hour shifts to feed thousands of strikers. Sympathetic small business people provide food for the strike kitchen.
Some of the milk companies sent in milk and gave us tickets so pickets could take milk home for their children.
Secretaries who support the strike listen in on their employers and give the union information regarding anti-strike plans. The workers are winning, but the employers have not given up.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
On May 21st, 1934, strikers, police, and special deputies hired by the Citizens Alliance confront each other in hand-to-hand combat in the city's Central Market District. The conflict spills over into the next day when a local radio station broadcasts live from the site.
And the cops showed us how to swing clubs, and then the day before, and we learned fast over, who beat them back, and so they shut the gates finally.
Police and Citizens Alliance deputies flee the clubs of the pickets who soon control the streets. Injured police, deputies, and strikers lie bleeding on the cobblestones. 2 Citizens Alliance deputies die from the blows they receive. One of them, a prominent Minneapolis businessman. Desperate to put an end to the violence, Governor Floyd B. Olson urges the union and the Citizens Alliance to meet. After 3 days, an agreement is reached. The strikers will be reinstated to their jobs, and the employers agree to grant union recognition to a broad range of workers in the trucking industry. But the battle for Minneapolis, which now appears settled, has really only just begun. Soon, it becomes clear that the employers are not sticking to their side of the deal. The workers vote to strike again in mid-July. The union's newspaper, The Organizer, becomes the first daily paper ever published by a striking union. A strike committee of 100 is elected to represent the many different kinds of workers in the industry. They meet every morning and lay out their plans for the day. Many other unions come out in support of the strike. A special farmers market is set up so that small farmers can sell their food directly to the public, thus avoiding hardship from the strike.
We were fortunate to be in a state where there was an active farm holiday association. The farmers helped us tremendously. And they used to bring in food and supplies and milk in every way. And farmers that understand what it's all about realize that they're workers too, except they ain't got no 8 to 5 day. They start in the morning and they quit at night, and it's 7 days a week. But the farmers around the adjacent area to the Twin Cities were tremendous in their support and help in the 34 strike.
Pickets fan out from new headquarters in the heart of downtown. They keep the streets nearly free of truck movement. The mayor of Minneapolis urges Governor Olson to mobilize the National Guard in case of new outbreaks of violence. The Minneapolis police chief orders his forces to begin moving goods. On July 20th, Henry Ness is on picket duty for the union. He is riding on the back of a pickup with a dozen other strikers when a truck carrying merchandise pulls out from a warehouse near the market. The pickup in which Ness is riding moves quickly to intercept the truck. Standing by, a line of police are ready with their shotguns.
We heard the shooting. It was in the middle of the block. The truck would have tried to intercept the truck, I'm sure. That was the intent. But nobody got out of the truck, and the pictures will show police started to open fire on them. Harry and I and Ben Koski, and I remember Ben because we were all three injured, come out of that alley, and we ran into a policeman who was down on one knee, and he had a Sub-Thompson machine riot gun. And just as we come around the corner, he fired. And he knocked Harry DeBoer's leg. We didn't know how bad, but Harry fell down. Ben Koski's hand was right next to Harry's leg, and he pretty near severed it. And I got the balance of the charge, lacerations in the stomach area, and I got some cracked ribs out of it. I thought I was killed because I was bleeding, but it was just surface wounds, it turned out to be. We got Harry, got him up to the strike headquarters, we got Koski there, and everyone went to different hospitals.
All right, fascinating story again. The 1934 Minneapolis Shutdown. We need to appreciate, students, what's going on here. Remember back the different generation prior to World War I, we saw socialist organizing influencing populist reform or progressive reform. Again, World War I pulled the rug from the socialists by incarcerating them, and it quieted progressive reform. So that the 1920s was a conservative era that led to this economic meltdown. And now we see socialist organizing, and it's influencing progressive reform. As we can see by these experiences, remember,